deep dive a little bit further into this migrant crisis, okay? All jokes aside. Greatest morning show on earth. Send this to your family and friends. They should be watching this too. I want to deep dive a little bit more into this migrant crisis, okay? And the reason that I want to deep dive a little bit more into the migrant crisis is because I think that maybe we're not looking at it from all sides. Maybe, perhaps, possibly, we're not looking at it holistically. And we're short-sighted, and we only looking at it just from one way. So yesterday we discovered that they were flying them over here, but I couldn't understand how they were getting them over here and how they could legally do it. And so I finally threw a little birdie that said something on this live stream. And then I was able to go down this rabbit hole and find the documentation that legally allowed for the Biden administration, which includes Kamala Harris, to be able to fly them over here. And I said, okay, now I understand it. And then I also took the perspective and I said, well, if you were them, would you do it any differently? The migrants, Venezuelans, Cubans, Haitians, whoever, right? Whoever is coming over here illegally. You know what I'm saying? Would you do it any differently? Absolutely would not. I would take advantage of the system too. So that only leads us to hold ourselves and our legislators accountable because they took advantage of us voting them in and we're acting willfully ignorant to who they are. We know what happened over the last 3.5 years, yet we sitting here fighting for an election, acting like we didn't have them in office in the last term. Fair enough. Well, with that being said, let's take a couple segments and dedicate it to the migrant crisis. And first, I want to start with the core, the heart of America. Not middle America, New York City. And I want to find out what are the major issues and where people stand in this upcoming election, especially with regard to immigration and the migrant crisis. Let's get into it.
Well, tonight we continue our series, Campaign Promises. Yesterday we touched on the economy, but tonight...
She bad. That's just the facts. She's very well put together.
We are going to talk about where the candidates stand on immigration.
All right, Fox 5 Sharon Crowley here once again. She talked with voters to get the pulse of the people on these important issues. Sharon.
Well, as you guys know, we're in a city of immigrants, right? So, of course, it's easy to understand why New Yorkers have plenty of opinions about immigration. Voters sounding off to me about what's happening at the border and about asylum seekers living here now. Now, while these voters held pretty different opinions, they all agreed on one thing. They want the next president to do something to improve things when it comes to immigration.
Everybody deserves a shot.
It's never been like this. You see, homeless people and migrants and people getting robbed and pushed and walk down the street, they're grabbing pocketbooks.
They have to come up with an immigration deal and reasonable ways for people to stay here legally. There's so many wonderful immigrants here who have contributed so much.
And they come here, they have nothing, and they're given a place to live, a phone,
Money.
and money.
It's an issue.
His wife was telling him what to say. She said, money.
Because I'm not from here. I'm from Barbados, so it means something to me.
Immigration is on the ballot this year. Voters in both parties want to know what candidates plan to do about it. Concerns heightened by a surge in border crossings and the busing of migrants to places like New York City.
And we have seen immigration rise as a concern nationally, mostly bubbling up from Republicans. And it really peaked after December when the migrant situation at the border hit record levels. But it's continued to be high. And so we continue to see Republicans particularly concerned about the issue, more so than even in 2016, when in that election Donald Trump made immigration an issue.
Lydia Saad is the director of U.S. social research at the Gallup poll.
I think they support immigration. They think immigration has been a good thing for the country. They don't support illegal immigration. They want to see people come into the country through legal means.
And I think that line is blurred. And that's where I have the problem, is because she's saying, and I understand what she's saying, legal migration into this country. The problem is that you have so many people that came into this country illegally that now they have an interest because they have an emotional tie to how they got here, and they're justifying other people being able to do it because they did it the same way. And so when you set a precedent that people can do things illegally and be successful or be celebrated from it, you create an environment where the people that come after them are validated and they saying, well, they did it. Or the people that came over here and took over a town. Think about it for a second. Let's say hypothetically, that at some point in the near future, Springfield, Ohio, right? They are going to have children and they're going to populate. And over a span of 10, 20, 30, and 40 years, right? Because it only takes really one generation to change the face of a city or change the face of an election or change the face of what happens in that city. I mean, we went from bankruptcy here in Detroit in 2008 to thriving at a surplus and building new buildings in 2024. It takes one generation to completely upend everything. So let's say, for example, you take these people and they come into your city and they're 1/3 of the population overnight in Springfield. They went from 39,000 to 60,000+, and 22,000 of them are newly arrived Haitian migrants. Cool. And upended everything. It upended the school system, infrastructure, accidents is up, geese is being captured, all of that. And let's say over a period of whatever many years that they populate and they get legal status and all of this stuff. And at some point, either their offspring or the future generation, or at some point, even them themselves will be able to vote in our elections to determine who's going to be your mayor, police chief, maybe even influence what happens on the national election side, infrastructure, taxes, tax base, cars. And everything that they've learned is still with them, that comes with them from the culture that they came from, which then changes the dynamic of what you have going on in your city. And then what if one day they woke up and they said, you know what? We felt like we was done wrong back in 2024. We was persecuted. And we control the majority of what happens over here because we the majority of the population. And so now we're going to tell you what to do. And not only that, we believe that we need somebody that represents us, that looks like us in the city council, that can speak to our needs. You know what? We the majority of the population here. Why shouldn't we be the priority? I don't care how long y'all been here. We are the majority, and we need people that look like us because we play an identity politics role. And not only that, we gonna swing it our way. And if you say anything against us, you know what, 100 years from now, maybe even 50 years from now, 20 years from now, we didn't like the persecution that we got back in 2024. We're gonna come back and we want to be reparated as a result of that. It's difficult for me to just take this at face value because everything that I do, and I've been trained to look at things from a 10, 15, 20-year view. So when I see things happen today, I'm not paying attention to what you think is affecting you now, but how it's going to change the face of what America does and what our culture is and how we move going forward in the face of this nation. Is that why we sitting here having a conversation about Kamala Harris getting elected to the president of the United States in the first place? Let's continue.
But once they get here, that's where you find more partisan split in terms of Republicans in favor of sending people back, Democrats and independents less so.
Now the border is 25 times worse than it was in 2016. Now the border is not even believable what's happening. And I want to be known as your border president. I'm going to be known as your border president.
Former President Donald Trump made illegal immigration central to his first run for office in 2016. If elected again, Trump promises to seal the border, start mass deportations of illegal immigrants, and demolish foreign drug cartels.
We must also reform our broken immigration system and protect our dreamers and understand.
A dreamer.
We can do both, create an earned pathway to citizenship and ensure our border is secure. We can do both, and we must do both.
Vice President Kamala Harris under President Biden was assigned to examine the root causes of the border crisis. She promises to reform the immigration system by going after drug cartels and human traffickers. She also supports deploying more detection technology to intercept fentanyl at the border.
But not in any way, shape, or form has she ever, in her immigration plan, said that she needs to stop the flow of illegal migrants into this country. Whenever they ask her the question, she skirts around it. Let me say that again. I want to go after the drug cartels and the human traffickers. And I want to get detection technology in order to stop the fentanyl at the border. But I'm not really trying to stop the border crossings or even the flying over here into the cities that are now upending what you got going on in your daily lives because you didn't even see it happening until it was already at your doorstep. When you wake up in the morning, 20,000 right there at your doorstep. Again, I don't blame the migrants. They just doing what they allowing them to do. They playing right into their hands. Here's a small town called Fairhope. They got word of a little birdie that said that, you know what, it's over 1,000 migrants that's already on their way over there. And so guess what the people did? They came out in droves to have a discussion.
We've got breaking news tonight. Reports of up to 1,000 Haitian immigrants coming to Baldwin County in the next few weeks, specifically Fairhope. And that prompted quite the turnout at tonight's City Council meeting. Our Lee Pack is in Fairhope. Lee, you were at that meeting and you say it got hot.
Yeah, hey, Lenise, it did get heated at times. I can tell you, like you just said, the turnout was overwhelming tonight. But right off the bat, Mayor Sherry Sullivan and other council members tried to shut this down, calling it a rumor, saying there's no truth to it. Take a listen.
To be clear, we have not seen or received any notification that that is happening, nor is it expected to happen in Fairhope.
So just imagine my surprise when I start getting text messages and emails that we were inviting immigrants to live in our city. And folks, let me just tell you, that's just patently false. It's just false. We've never even had a conversation up here. Never. Not even in a work session, not even in a council meeting.
We're not going to be a sanctuary city. We don't have any desire to be that. And the last number I'd heard was up to 30,000 refugees. So, you know, it went from 1,000 to 5,000 to 15 to 30. So,
look at all of those good white folks. Because you know one thing about our good white people, our snow hares and our snow bunnies. And don't get me wrong, I love my snow hares and snow bunnies. I'm absolutely 100% in support of my snow hares and my snow bunnies as long as you're doing things legally and you're a good person. If you're a good person, I rock with you no matter what the color of your skin is as long as you're doing it legally. But look at the overflow in there. These people are vigilant. And they woke up and they said, we see what's happening over there in Aurora. We see what's happening over in Springfield. We see what's happening in that small Pennsylvania town. We got to know what's happening. Because we are not about to subject ourselves or our children to a wave that's happening all across America, and it's coming.
And I can tell you, I've covered a lot of hot button issues here on the Eastern Shore. Not only was the council chamber standing room only, but the overflow filled up the lobby over here. And I can tell you, it's an extensive lobby. A lot of people coming in to express their opinions. Some of them taking offense to what some of the council members said, trying to dismiss some of the reports on social media saying it got out of control and that people need to use common sense when looking at social media.
When you see a bunch of men, I got this missing right here, but they got all of this right there, it's getting serious. It's getting ugly. It's getting real shabba ranks. When you see a bunch of men that's missing this right here, but they got all of this right here, it's about to get real shabba ranks up in this mug.
They didn't like what they heard there, but some of this does stem from a signature, a letter that was signed by Council President Corey Martin in 2022 at the height of the Ukrainian war, saying he supported helping women and children refugees. He said he wasn't speaking for the council and that none of this has anything to do with the other. He doesn't know how it got to this point, but a lot of people speaking their mind tonight, some of them even comparing this to what's happening in Springfield, Ohio with the Haitian immigration population there. But a lot of people who spoke really just saying that they don't believe Baldwin County nor Fairhope.
Look at the men right there. All of that thinning. Red shirt, blue shirt, yellow shirt, all shirts. Call that the George Burns. It's called the donut. If you want to look like a good lawyer, shave this. I don't even care if you don't. Listen, I don't care how old you are. You could be 27 years old and you got a full head of hair. If you want to be a good lawyer and you want to make some money, you shave this. You keep this. Get it faded down. Fade it down on the sides. Get your mustache. Keep the beard low. Shave this off. That's a lawyer for your ass right there. He gonna get you out of jail. He getting you out of jail. 100%. I don't want no lawyer unless he missing the top of his hair. Does that mean you ain't been through nothing? You wasn't in the dirt. You wasn't in the mud with the client trying to figure out the loopholes of how to get him out of jail. I want my lawyer no hair at the top, donut on the sides. Otherwise, get him out of here. Book him, Dano. Get him out of here.
Hope could accommodate just a mass relocation of immigrants.
And I want to say that I support legal immigration, and I think most people in Fairhope probably do. You know, we do, but not illegal immigration.
I wanted to come to address the fact that our schools really cannot take on any more students. Especially students that don't speak English.
People are concerned.
Our teachers, our schools are maxed out. Our teachers are at capacity. I was at my son's baseball game when I listened to what you were saying. And I want to remind everyone why we're here. We're here because of a letter that you signed. We're not here because we're incompassionate or we don't have feelings. Or
so they did sign a letter and they trying to act. So we didn't have any conversations. We just signed the letter.
Care about people. And you know what? All I could think of when you were talking is that you were gaslighting every single one of us.
Looks like y'all stepped in it, didn't you? Tell us what you're gonna do if this does come to pass. Okay, y'all are sitting up here all smug and everything. Tell us what we need to know.
When I heard what our mayor said, and then I heard what you...
Look, listen, shout out to the chat. Laura Havoc says, I just subscribed to say you look like Rick Ross off Temu. You look like a piece of hair on my balls. You know what I'm saying? You look like the piece of hair off my ball sack. If this wasn't a Millionaire Morning Show, I would go all the way in, but I understand that there's some people that's at work right now. They got me on the TV screen in the lunchroom. Just know, I don't talk to people that got video game characters in their profiles.
I felt like, okay, you're all saying, don't worry about it. It's not going to happen. We're not going to approve this. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter whether you approve it. It's going to happen.
Now, my question to you specifically is, Fairhope Police Department ready to handle this? What's the answer on that?
I want to put you all on notice. You don't start doing your job.
I'm sorry, Gam.
Haitian immigrants, both those here,
I'm sorry,
documented and undocumented, commit crimes at lower rates than native-born Americans do. According to the Cato Institute, I hate having to cite them.
Yeah, well, we listen to our constituents. We hear them. We don't want any fear factors. We want to let our constituents know that there are no illegal anybody coming in. The program that I signed was about 3 years ago. It was a federal program. There was never ethnicity involved. It was about displaced refugees. And that's our, when you're given much, you're expected to do much. So the protection of women and children is something that I stand on, and I don't see a problem with that as long as it's in a legal fashion.
You had to come to the TV.
Again, that was Council President Corey Martin responding to what was said tonight just after the meeting. It's also important to note that his wife got up there during the public participation part and defended him, saying a lot of this was taken out of context and really challenging the people in the audience who were speaking out, saying if they think they can do a better job, well, then sign up. We also spoke to Congressman Jerry Carl earlier today. He's in Washington. He weighed in on this, said for the better part of this weekend, he's been working with county officials and city officials here in Fairhope to track down the source of this.
Tell Gam Gam I said, what up, Messi?
There's no truth. It's unfounded, but he will continue to try to get to the bottom of this and perhaps.
So, cities all across the United States of America is concerned. They are concerned, and they want to know whether or not migrants are going to be coming to their town, because now we are fighting for America.